Shut up and sit down.
And welcome to the Week 7 edition of the BlackSwarm podcast. Hank Pfeiffer with Rob Antonell, as always. So last Friday night, another number one ranked team comes into Massillon, and another number one ranked team goes down. Big win over Middletown, 41-7. Rob, quick thoughts on the game?
Yeah, well, we got to start off with that BlackSwarm defense. They showed up, they did their thing again, just like they do every single week. But, you can't ignore it. Every week they show up and they do exactly what they're supposed to do. Great defense. And, it's almost boring to say every single week that they're amazing, but they are. I was kind of a little disappointed in Middletown, to be honest. I was expecting more from them. I thought they were going to be a little bit better than they were last year. I thought they would put up I don't want to say a better game because I think last year they kind of got up on us a little bit, but maybe a similar game to last year. It just didn't happen. They came out real hot. The pretty bad tactics to start the game, but it's like on one hand, I really don't like that they're doing that. It's pretty classless. At the same time, it ended up not hurting them at all, the penalty. And it got them pretty hyped up. So, definitely don't recommend it, but it almost worked for them. But they just couldn't put it together on the field. So, at the end of the day, it was a pretty classless move. And, I don't know. It didn't work out for them, I guess.
So, it is pretty classless. But, looking at it objectively, if I'm trying to speak as not a fan of Massillon right now, just as an observer of the game, that is a pretty great heel move. That's a WWE villain storyline right there. And just from that entertainment perspective, honestly, I loved it. You don't knock over the band kid. It's just pretty funny in general. They decided they wanted to come in and be the bad guys and just storming the middle of our band formation and hitting the middle of the field with a sledgehammer. Pretty good way to set the tone. Absolutely no follow through from them though, so that's a pretty tough look. Like you said, ended up being a touchback, so the penalty they got really didn't matter. But in the moment, I was hot, but looking back on it now, pretty funny, and just if you're going to lean into being the bad guy, great way to do it.
Yeah, I didn't really take it that personal. It's not like I was really that upset about it. It's just one of those things where, they're going out there, they're trying to do something to hype themselves up, and we have to do something to counter that. So, we gotta hype ourselves up as much. We gotta make sure the team knows about it. I know that I saw some of our coaches out there pointing and telling the kids, "Hey, look at that! Look what they're doing," and that's what you got to do. So. Not that I was overly mad about it. I didn't really feel disrespected. It was kind of classless, but at the same time, hey, if you do that, then you come out and win by 20, no one's going to complain. So, it got them fired up, but it didn't translate. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. It's pretty silly, thinking back and paying attention to how coaches sometimes will try and get their teams up. They will, look for any perceived form of disrespect as bulletin board material. And for you to give another team that just handed on a silver platter is kind of dumb if you can't walk the walk. If you're going to talk the talk, and go for it. Lean into being the bad guy. But the other thing I thought was pretty funny was, the rumblings on Facebook, whatever, take that for a grain of salt, but some person said that was the most disrespectful thing that they've ever seen an opponent do on the football field to us, and I'm just gonna vaguely gesture at the highlight reel of Perry players going out of their way to step on our players last year, in game. So, it is what it is. If they want to try and pump themselves up that way, then go for it. But I can assure you that's not the worst thing that has happened in the last calendar year, let alone ever, to Massillon.
Yeah, hitting the band kid, I'm sure, was incidental, but that definitely adds a lot onto the severity of it. I think without that, it's definitely not as bad. So I don't want that part to get overlooked. I don't believe that it was on purpose. I mean, I didn't like zoom in and watch it. I'm just like guessing you're probably not going to try to hit the band kid standing there. So I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I mean, whatever. It tried to get them fired up. It ended up getting us fired up, got us more into the game, and I'm all for it. But I'm also going to sit here and say that it was disrespectful. It was classless. But I mean, there's far worse things that I've seen besides that.
Yeah, so I guess that's all I really had to talk about with that. To the actual game itself, like you said, BlackSwarm played lights out. Our defensive line dominated the line of scrimmage, like kind of like what we both thought was going to happen. Secondary came out, played a hell of a game. We had like 5 or 6 sacks that kind of messed with the rushing numbers a little bit. So it ends up like on the night, it looks like they had negative 50-something rushing yards. You account for the sacks, and I think it was like they had 20-something total rush yards, which kind of what we assumed was going to happen anyway, just because the name of their game was airing it out. And props to our secondary, man. They stood up, and they, didn't really allow any big plays. It just sticky coverage all night, all around great performance by the BlackSwarm. That's really all I can. Nothing stands out like we had any bad plays that I can think of. I don't know how to put this. Like, I don't want this defense's greatness to be overlooked, but it's almost becoming routine of them coming out and dominating week in and week out to the point where I'm having trouble thinking of any bad plays we had at all, let alone anything else like that.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's really coming to mind either for me when it comes to the defense. I mean, we controlled up front, which we expected. But I think our back end played pretty well also because, that quarterback's a pretty good player. And we saw last year that he can make some plays, he can make some throws. And he tried to fit the ball into a few tight windows this week. But, we did a really good job of closing those windows down, making them really tough throws, not giving the receivers any space to breathe at all. We were consistently squeezing their guys to the sideline. So when the quarterback did throw a nice over-the-shoulder pass, there was just no room for it. It ended up being out of bounds or right down the line. And, that's just credit to our defensive backs for doing a great job of closing all of the windows and making it really tough on the quarterback because we know he can throw. We know he can make a lot of good passes. So not giving him any room to do so, a lot of credit is due to them on the back end this week.
Yeah. I guess the more we talk about it, kind of the more I'm coming back into the game, and I'm pulling to you this week. I have no memory of that game essentially, and the more we talk about it, the more it comes back to me. And that quarterback, he had some zip on the ball. He looked pretty decisive. He was making good throws. It's just that the defense was there. There was always, a corner draped over our wide receiver, and not in a pass interference way, but just good sound defense, like teach tape on how you want to defend, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, props to the back end, props to the front end, props to the middle. Like, we can't speak enough of how good that defense is playing right now. On the other side of the ball, it was a Jalen Slaughter night, 15 for 29 with 293 yards, 3 tutties, 1 interception, but it seems like every week he tries something, and it's never the same bad result twice. We talked about it last week a little bit. He's made a couple throws that were the same. Like if he gets away with something once, he's going to try it again, and then once the bad thing happens, you're not going to see that again. I think a perfect example was we talked about a few weeks ago. We had a busted halfback screen, and he scrambles out, and hits the wide receiver running the flat to the opposite side with a lineman 8 yards downfield that they didn't call. Exact same situation happened this week. Busted halfback screen. I think we talked about it. It looked like if he would have hung in there for a half a second more, he could have had it, but he didn't like it, bailed on it, tried to scramble, make a play, and got the flag this time. That was a bad play I want to highlight just because the rest of his game was, pretty good. Like, not much else to complain about there. Let me see here. Come out, first play, hit Tolles down the sideline for a touchdown. We hit, what was another one? Jock Carter took a tunnel screen to the house. It looked like he should have had, a few yards there, maybe got the first down, but he makes a couple guys miss and takes it to the house. I think he's kind of coming into his own as another weapon we have. That was one of the things, we know what Tolles is. We've seen a lot of Wiggins, but it was like, who else was going to step up? We talked about being 8 guys deep at receiver, but what guy was going to make the coaches have a hard decision of who they're going to take off the field to get that rotation going. So I think overall the offense had a pretty good showing, even without the one back there. It was Jameer Gamble actually leading the backfield, had 13 attempts, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Overall, let me see here, 13, 19, 25, 30 carries on the night, 1 lost yard rushing. That's it. No sacks on the quarterback. Just all around phenomenal game by our offensive line as well. So, any other thoughts you got on the offense there, Rob?
Yeah, like you said, it was a slaughter game. And, just to reiterate what you said, I think he had a pretty good game. But, there's still some of those, stereotypical slaughter mistakes in there that it seems like he's getting better with every week, every year. This is his 3rd year that we've been seeing him now. And, some of those mistakes we saw when he was a freshman, wherein it just seems like he's so comfortable throwing off balance, off platform, that gets him in trouble sometimes. In his earlier years, it would be like the tag screens. He wouldn't set his feet. He would just float it out there, and it wouldn't get there. And he was trying to rely on his arm too much, wasn't setting his feet. Same thing, he would start scrambling. He'd make a play, and, he'd make a really good play. And he's still doing that. The illegal men downfield, which was on the quarterback, it's his fault because it was a screen, and he knows better. You can't go downfield with it. You got to throw the screen or run it. But he got away with it a couple weeks ago. It was still a really good play that he made. It was just mentally not a smart play to do because it's going to be a flag, or it should be a flag every time. So he's able to make those, but every time he makes a play while moving, scrambling off platform, he ends up missing one while being off platform. There's times where he'll be rolling out. He had a wide open guy last week going over the middle, and he's rolling to his left. He's a lefty, and instead of stopping, setting his speed, or even kind of getting his body under control, he just whips it out there. And it was a horrible throw to a guy that didn't have 20 yards around him in any direction. And that's one where it's like, hey, you need to slow down, make the throw first. But just throughout the year, some of those throws I've been critiquing, it's because he's on the run. And he's not getting as much on it as he thinks he is. And he's able to make those throws sometimes, but they're not always consistent. And, that's what gets him in trouble. Sometimes it's better to get your feet under you and, throw the correct ball than to just get it out right away while you're on the run. He's getting better with it, but that's still where you see some of those mistakes. So, looking for him to clean that up a little bit, but when he sets the speed and makes a throw, he makes a great throw. You saw the one to Tolles. I know Tolles got some separation on the corner, good route by him, but, he was able to lay it out there for him. And then I think the best throw of the night was actually down the away sideline. I think it was to number 8. I can't think of his name, but I know that he just went on a college visit over the weekend, but can't think of his name. It goes by a nickname. So I think that's really throwing it off.
Emmy Lewis Jr.
Emmy. All right, yeah, Emmy. Is it Chris? Is that his real name?
That's what they have, Emmy Lewis Jr. in the stat sheet, so that's what I'm going with.
All right, so I think that was actually the best throw because it was really tight coverage, but he fit it right over his shoulder, and he was able to make that catch against the sideline, on the away sideline, which it does make a difference on which sideline it is. Not just because of the placement of the ball, but it's easier for defenders to make plays on their own sideline. They get a lot of help from the sideline, or at least they should be, and the good players know how to react to that. But I think he was able to fit that one in a really tight spot, and it was a really nice catch. And I think that was his best throw of the night. You know, we talked about the one he missed to the wide open guy going to the north end zone. He had another one where Tolles broke across the middle. He kind of had to step up for pressure and get rid of it probably earlier than he wanted to, but he put too much zip on it. And that's one of those home run plays for us. You know, we've been running it for years. That was the X post.
Yep.
You know, you had to correct me on it. I'm like, oh, smash Z post. We don't see that very often anymore. Then you smash X post route. All right, yeah.
I wasn't saying it to be like, I wasn't trying to be the, oh, well, actually, guy. I was saying it as like, oh, cool, we can actually run it with either our Z or our X. Like, it's cool, we can have different guys run that route. All right.
So we've been running that play for years now, and it's a home run play for us. We've broken it down on film. We've shown why it works, why it's so hard to defend. And most of the time when it's open, it is wide open. So that's one where you can be a little bit more safer with your throw. You don't have to put as much zip on it. You can kind of just leave it out there. You don't have to hit him in stride because in that case, he was wide open. And usually he is wide open on that play. So that's one where you just need to take a little bit off, anticipate that there's not going to be any defenders in the area, and he's going to be coming into an opening, and give him a real catchable ball. I think there was still a chance that Tolles could have kind of made a play on it. Would have been really tough, but Slaughter could have made it a lot easier by giving a more friendly pass.
Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it was this game last year that we had Z post wide open over the middle, and it looked like Slaughter just kind of threw a lollipop up to it, and he had to wait on it a little bit. But he caught the ball. We got a first down. I can't remember if that one went for a touchdown or not. And I remember people giving him shit for like, oh, why don't you put more zip on the ball? You know, you get it to him in stride. That's 6 points. Like, but to your point, yeah. But to your point, I would rather
take the 20-yard catch.
Yes.
No yards after than an incompletion.
Exactly. So, you know, it's like we're still hammering on about. He's still young. He's still learning, and you don't see the same mistake twice if he has to pay for it. So that's good to see. Good development. He's getting better every week, as is the rest of our team. The one thing we do want to talk about was, like we said a little bit earlier, DeJuan did not dress Friday. Plenty of shit going on in the rumor mill. If you wanna partake in that, go find your local old man sitting at McDonald's at 8 a.m. drinking a coffee, or hop on Facebook, or whatever you want. Here, don't want to breathe life into anything because I don't know it's true or not. All I know is what was in the newspaper. And according to them, that the Ohio High School Athletic Association is looking into his transfer application after his offseason transfer to Massillon from Copley. The OSHA is currently working through the transfer application with the situation, and the student hasn't been approved yet. Whatever the situation may be, I'm not going to speak on it. What I do want to know is why we are week 6 into the regular season after he has been here all off season and this stuff's still not approved yet. Like, how long does the application process take? I know if it's not a quote-unquote bona fide transfer where either both parents, or if parents are divorced, the one with full custody moves into the city district, that the student is allowed to play the first 5 games and then that's it. But you would think by now that OSHA would have been able to review all of the pertinent information and come to a decision, yes or no, and not leave the kid in limbo.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that the OHSAA probably doesn't review every single case. So it's not that they didn't have time to review it. I'm guessing they just didn't start until now. Again, that's my speculation. I have no idea. It kind of matches up with the most common rumors out there. So, but who knows? I have no clue. But I mean, the OHSAA is pretty worthless, and not to defend them at all because they're horrible. But to your point, I'm guessing that, which may even be worse, is that they didn't even look at it until now. So now you're in the middle of the season and everything's gone to whack, and they're known to do that. So, I mean, it is what it is. We're just gonna have to battle through and see what happens.
Yep. So, look out for. Hopefully, obviously you want to see that situation get resolved. You want the kid to play. He's obviously has a future somewhere at the college level, and if you want him to get be able to go into the best situation possible, and the way to do that is to get more film out there, get more tape out there of him being the best form of high school athlete he is, which would be his senior year. Obviously, he's been out there. He had a couple big games against Valdosta and Eds. Not to take away from the rest of the games, but I think that's been the biggest competition we've seen this year. And ideally, we have bigger competition down the road. And not to say, hey, obviously you want your best player to play, but for the kid as well, the more tape and the more good tape he has against high-level competition, the more likely he is to get a better and better scholarship to a school somewhere. So not even as a Massillon fan, I want that quarterback back there for us. Like, you want to see, like you said, OSHA sucks, and it sucks for the kid to be left in limbo. Like, us or anyone else, it just sucks for the kids, and it sucks that it seems to be, yet again, that politics comes in and just ruins a child's athletic career.
Yeah, I mean, something I didn't even think of, but it got brought up to somebody that was up at the tailgate. I'm not even sure who he was, to be honest, but he mentioned that, Owens could be up for contention for Mr. Ohio this year. And at the end of the year, what are your final stats going to look like if you miss a game, if you miss 2 games, if you miss 3 games? I mean, that really affects your stats. And, I mean, I'm not here to say that he is Mr. Ohio, but, I mean, any type of award, it's obviously going to be affected. And those awards go a long way of helping dictate your future. So, I mean, it's not just something cool to hang on your wall for the next 50 years and tell your kids and grandkids about, but, maybe that's the deciding factor of, a school offering you or not. I mean, it's just more publicity, and really that's what the kids need. Outside of the training and everything. I mean, college scouts. I know Massillon does as good of a job as anybody, if not better, at communicating with college scouts and helping coordinate kids getting into schools that fit them really well. But still, you don't want to lose stats. You don't want to lose any exposure.
Yep. So, not really, much more to add on this shitty situation for the kid. Just hope it gets resolved one way or another, have a final answer, and then be able to go from there. So, with that, we can get into a little film room action, watch some highlights, and we'll keep the show moving, huh?
Let's do it.
All right, just a couple highlights tonight. We got first up, pretty much an every week guest star on this show, Pringle. Here he is coming hot off the edge. Great inside move. How's the highlights looking for you this week, Rob?
Better.
Attaboy.
mean, on that first play, that blocker basically tried to tackle him and still barely got hands on him. Yeah, he's so good at shedding blocks.
Oh, yeah. And it's, I mean, any kind of blocking scheme where you're going to end up with your fullback trying to take on Pringle one-on-one, probably not the most ideal situation. But here, I mean, obviously coming in as a pass rusher, you always want to come in with a plan, and then be able to react from there. But being lined up on the outside shoulder of the tackle, you wouldn't think he's going to overset you to take on the guy outside of you. So just being able to react to that tackle, bouncing out, coming in, having to come up with another game plan as the fullback, like you said, tries to tackle him. Leaves him in the dust, nowhere to go.
It's kind of hard to tell because it's so zoomed out. But on the next play, the burst that Pringle has after he reads what hole to go through, kind of sets his feet, and then just dives right through the hole to make a tackle. Just an explosive burst of energy, meeting the running back behind the line of scrimmage.
I can't really tell. I mean, I think it's inside zone with the fullback trying to seal backside. And, the rest of the defense muddles everything up. Front side for the running back. Leaves a giant hole for Pringle. And kills him. I don't even know what was attempted here.
I mean, I think they had the jet sweep if that would have been the play or there was a good snap for it. I guess Pringle still had a chance of making that play at the mesh. But if they get outside of them, 41 got wrapped, and then it comes down to Hack trying to, Hack rolls up top. Our other safety, I'm guessing Page there, would have had to track him down.
Yeah. Broken play. Take the sack. Here, a little bit of offensive highlights. Just pushing the pile.
Yeah, you gotta love when the linemen get in there. Snodgrass goes running in and makes contact at the 6 or 7 yard line, or behind that maybe.
Yeah, just everybody's blocking power, so it's more about angles and walling guys off than necessarily getting guys driving vertical back into the linebackers. But Pringle tries to take it backside, and it just turns into a rugby scrum. And this is really where you can see the physicality, the difference in physicality, I should say, of them versus us. Here, a little cross dog blitz. Just gets in there.
I mean, good thing he got home here, huh? I mean, you're putting your corner in a really tough situation. Luckily, he knows that it's a pretty heavy blitz, and he's able to read everything that's in front of him. So, I mean, if they do get this ball out to the flat, he's able to come up and make a play, but he's still essentially 1/2.
Yeah.
And kind of responsible for both. But, I mean, he's able to understand the situation. We're bringing a heavy blitz, and if he gets the ball out, it's going to be quick. So he's got his eyes in the backfield, but he's still keeping some depth, not to get ran right past. But he did a pretty good job of reading this. But still, that's a tough position to put your corner in. So, I mean, I'm glad that we have the trust in him, and he looks like he's capable of doing it. But that's a really tough spot.
We talked about it last week and how we play our base quarters of you want to be able to cover the vertical of one, but put yourself in a good position to leverage two if he's out. And I think he's in a really good spot right here. Like you said, he knows the blitz is on, so he knows that quarterback's got to get the ball out quick. And, even if Pringle's not there, he's still in what I would think is a really good spot to be able to flip his hips and run vertical with the wide receiver down the sideline if the quarterback launches it. But he could still flip him and come downhill hard on the flat player as well. So
the difference is that this isn't your regular cover 4.
Yeah, the difference is he doesn't have that safety over top. So, against a good quarterback, or with a good quarterback, they can really make you pay with a look like this. But you're only putting him in that position because you have so many guys in his face, and it helps when the guys in his face are two of the best linebackers in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, I wonder if that linebacker was supposed to drop.
Which one?
Is that the Sam up there?
Yep.
Yeah, he ends up, I'm not sure what he's doing.
So...
he starts to reroute, and then he just comes downhill afterwards. I don't think he was reading the ball coming out of the quarterback's hand like that. I don't know. Maybe his job is to try to get in the throwing lane of that hitch to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Not really cover it, but get in the way of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
I'm guessing he was supposed to drop. It's, somewhere, though.
I'm not too sure. It looks like we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... kind of 6 guys in coverage just based on our Obi not coming down, not screaming downhill right away. So kind of your basic fire zone blitz, except we're dropping that backside safety down into a linebacker spot. So you would think he would want to get more out, get to the curl flat a little bit quicker. But, good on Pringle just getting in his face and not letting that play go anywhere.
Yeah, we're able to play this very aggressively, not just because we're sending so many bodies, but we know that Pringle is so good on the blitz that quarterback's not going to have any time to throw. So, that definitely helps. You don't have to be perfect in the back end. You don't have to guard every single scenario. You only have to guard the ones that you think are going to happen based on how quickly Pringle's going to get there. So, it ends up working out for sure, but it's still a tough spot to put some of our kids in. Not that they can't handle it.
Yeah.
I'm more or less emphasizing how well our players in the back end are playing that we're able to do it.
Exactly. A good coach is not going to put their kid in a spot where they're not going to be able to succeed.
Yep. Absolutely. You ever deal with him very much?
What's that?
Or remember when he was here, Coach Cups?
Was he during your time?
No, he was after. I think he was the first one here with Moore.
So yeah, no, I never had him then.
Well, I know you didn't have him, but I didn't know if you remembered when he was here very much.
He was a big cover 0 man guy, right?
Yeah, and I feel like he, based on listening to him talk, he would talk at some of the Booster Club meetings, and based on how he talked, I feel like he kind of knew what he was talking about. It seemed like he had a pretty good scheme. It was a lot of pressure on the kids that might not have been ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he talked, he sounded really smart. But my issue with him is that he would go to Booster Club meetings, the public meeting, and he would talk about the previous game, and it would be after we got burnt 8 times in a single game. Just go up there, and this isn't exactly how he would say it, but it's yeah, this kid sucks. He wasn't supposed to do that. He's supposed to be better than that. He's like, or this coverage works really well if they actually cover him. And it's like your corner's getting burnt one-on-one over and over and over again. Like, stop calling that. Like, or at least show up, say something different than like, well, the kid was supposed to be better. Like, I get that, kids have responsibility they're supposed to do. There's 11 guys that need to do 11 things in order to make a play work. But, I mean, he would just badmouth the kids, like, consistently. It's like, it's not my system. It's the kids can't do it. It's like, well, if the kids can't do your system, it's a bad system. Or it's the wrong system. It might not be a bad system. It's the wrong system. You can't put in a system that your kids can't do.
Exactly. Like, obviously I'm a little more of an offensive guy. If you can run the Peyton Manning system of where you're just going to sit in 2x2 and drop back and, hey, quarterback, just get us in the right play every time. If they can execute that, then great, phenomenal. If they can't, then you're kind of asking your kid to do the impossible. And to your point, repeatedly put a kid in a situation and ask them to do something that they can't do over and over and over again. That's just, that's bad coaching. There's no other way to put it.
Man.
God, he's so good.
Just ran that kid open. Ran him right over.
Just, good job reading the rollout. Fullback's responsible for just setting the edge, making sure nobody gets outside of him, which I guess technically he did his job since Pringle went through him and not outside him, so task failed successfully, I guess. But, good job on Pringle just running through the kid, forcing the quarterback to make a bad throw. Obviously, the receiver found a nice little hole in coverage. Quarterback, that's the right throw to make. Just had a guy in his face and couldn't make it.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that fade route stopped his route right in the way, but he should have been clearing it out. Instead, he's tangled up with the corner and way too close.
Yeah. Safety does a good job getting over top. Probably, you can't see it here. I'm guessing got hands on somehow. Receiver, I don't know if the ball's up in the air enough. He thought it was coming towards him, but I'll take it.
Nah, that receiver needs to clear it out. That was a planned play.
Yeah.
It's a little fake flood route with the wheel. Because you see the middle guy changes his route to bring his guy away from that window, trying to hit us with the wheel, and then the clear out guy is just in the way. There is still a window. Quarterback overthrows him a little bit, but that clear out needs to be a clear out. And I'm not sure why he's still in the picture here, but whatever.
Yeah.
Great play by Pringle.
Whoops, a little too far. Correct me if I'm wrong here. It looks like he's looking back for the ball right now, doesn't it?
Oh, well, he shouldn't be.
Exactly.
To me, this looks like a designed flood wheel concept. It looks like they're trying to do this intentionally. And if so, that guy needs to get the hell out of the way. Also, the go route on flood is never open.
No.
Your job isn't to be open. Your job is to open up the two guys underneath of you. So I don't really like his alignment. I don't like his routes. I would have been split out further than this. The corner's on you either way. To be split out further. Or you're gonna get picked up. You're gonna get picked up deep. Split it out.
I don't know. Maybe he thought that running by the corner. If the quarterback wanted to rip it right now, we saw a kid had the arm talent that if he'd set his feet and just threw a laser in there, get a frozen rope to him, he's open. But
I mean, this ended up working decently against our cloud, but yeah, that clear out it has to clear out more.
Mm-hmm. I'd hazard to say it's like a designer flood concept to get him open. Just because in high school ball, it's like, I mean, you see it at the college level and in the NFL of like, you try and galaxy brain it and dissect what they're doing or reverse engineer it. And then the coach comes out and says later, yeah, he just did the wrong thing. That wasn't supposed to happen like that. I think.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the tight splits were to encourage us to go to our cloud. I don't know. But either way.
Yeah. I just go back to that. I think it was when Ohio State played Minnesota, and we were running like unbalanced to the left, and running back took stretch right to the house. And football Twitter all night was like, oh, what was this play? What were they trying to do? This is never seen this before. And then it comes out later like, yeah, running back just took the handoff the completely wrong way. Like, just totally blown assignment by him. It just worked out right. So.
Yeah.
Last play for Pringle, just heavy personnel. Power right. Drags a kid. Drags two kids. Takes, 3 to take him down. Dude's a dude. Not much else to say about him. Next up, our starting Sam linebacker. Little Vito McConnell highlights. Here, just reads run, triggers on it quick.
Yeah, I think that was the first play of the game.
Tone setter.
Good tackle.
Another little cross dog, just completely blows up the kind of counterplay they were trying to go for. There to clean it up. Great job. They tried to run this a few times, and I think this is the one we talked about with the blitz of the kids being in a weird position, but they try to run stick on us a lot. And, I mean, you could see McConnell fall off his guy, should be covering the two to the flat, which he is right here. Mm-hmm. Ball comes out quick.
Yeah, then he'd be split further apart.
Yeah. Bad spacing. I mean, that's how you teach the number 3 on the stick route. It's kind of like a option-ish. You can break away from the defender over top of you, whatever side he's on. Quarterback sees it, knows exactly what he's going to do, gets the ball out. But like you said, bad spacing. Lets the defender, leaves him right there to make a play.
Yeah, I mean, shout out Pringle for calling that out also. Pringle sees what's happening, immediately starts pointing, and I'm assuming yelling out to McConnell also.
Mm-hmm. Just trying to go for a little drive, shallow concept. You get the drag route from the number 2 on the numbers there. The number 2 receiver to the opposite side of the ball just runs a little sit. Quarterback knows where to go with the ball, and we rally up, make a tackle. That's just BlackSwarm defense right there. Great job there by McConnell, just getting home on the blitz. I don't know what that tackle's doing. Well, actually, I do know what that tackle's doing. You got a guy coming inside on the guard. Tackle takes the second most dangerous man inside. McConnell's got a free rush. Makes quarterback hurry the throw. And what's that hack there?
Yep.
Driving down. Forcing completion.
Glad to see that we're only offsides on a kickoff once this week.
Yeah, and
I just figured with how often it's happening, and with a different kicker, a different cadence, I know it happened more than once, but only happened once. I guess that's a good thing. I still think it's pretty unacceptable, but we'll take one.
Yeah, that's one of those things that obviously it's part of the operation. You should be able to have that work. You should be able to have that pretty cleaned up. But on the other side of that, it's the kids wanting to go down, make a play. We've talked about this plenty.
I get it.
We talked about it plenty of times on the podcast. If you have a game with 0 penalties, that's not necessarily a good thing because your kids aren't playing as aggressive as you want them to. So.
Yeah, and I mean, this game, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal for me because we weren't kicking touchbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But early in the year, you're kicking touchbacks pretty regularly, and we're getting offsides on those. And that's when it's like, what? We're kicking a touchback. Why? You don't need to be the first guy down there. And it's just that's just what it's infuriating. When you get like one a year, it happens. You're mad about it, but it happens. Maybe a second one a year, but this has been a pretty bad year so far of it. And I think, not to pick on anybody, but I think it's been the same kid like all 3 times. So I mean, he's one of the first ones down there, and he's blowing up plays. He's doing a great job, but I think he's got called like 3 times, and there's probably been 3 other times he didn't get called for it.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's had a pretty intimate time with the Blarney Stone because of that, because that's really what it comes down to is a mental error. And like you said, an unacceptable penalty. But ideally, we get that cleaned up as the year goes along, and we see it less and less. But just here, good effort play by McConnell getting down there. Shout out the kid next to him throwing his body into a guy. That's the kind of wedge busting you want to see in kickoffs that you don't get to see much nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, you got to love a wedge buster.
Doesn't show up in the stats, but that's the kind of selfless, violent play you love to see. So, last up, we got number 2. Some slaughter highlights. Here, first play of the game. Little fake jet. We've had plenty of run plays off that, so it sucks up the defense, leaves the corner one-on-one with probably our best wide receiver. Gets some separation. Slaughter hits him in stride. Tunnel screen. I mean, looks great in the QB stat. Looks great for the QB on the stat sheet, but this play is all number 7 right here.
Yeah, great play.
We've had a little bit of tunnel screen discourse in our group chat. Rob, what do you think of the play overall? Execution, how...
So this one particular I was watching, that's why I was kind of quiet there for a second, and it was blocked up pretty well. The first guys to get to him were the defensive linemen that were in the backfield. So, I mean, they did a pretty good job of retracing, getting back to him. But after that, it wasn't until a high safety comes down. So, I mean, like we've talked about, I think if you can block that first guy, you're in a pretty good spot. If you can block the first two guys, you're in a really good spot. So it's one of those where when it works, it works. When it doesn't work, it's horrible. So if you can get out there and you can block that first guy, you have chances like this. If you go out there and completely whiff on that middle linebacker, that's when kids get hurt. So, I just need to get out there and, block that first guy. But in this case, we do. We get out there, we block the guys on the edge, and linebacker kind of gets sucked in. But once he goes out, you got two guys on him. Good job. I think it worked out really well. So in this case, it works for sure. But there are also times when you miss and you just want to, you just hate it. So I think when we're making plays like this, there's not going to be discourse. When you run 3 or 4 of them in a row that combine for 5 total yards, that's when people start to dislike them. So, some give and take. But I'm glad to see that we're out there, we're blocking and executing well. And, as long as you keep that up, you're going to keep springing big plays.
Yeah. I think just overall, like you said, we've executed it pretty well so far. Great recovery job by Carter here as well. Kind of catches the ball, slips a little bit. I think a lot of people, we thought his knee was down, but watching on the replay, there was a couple field level angles of it, videos on Twitter and whatnot, that his knee wasn't down. He was fine. If anybody wants to bitch and moan that, we got a refs going our way, which is in itself hilarious, but good play to have in the arsenal. It'll slow down that pass rush. And when you got dudes like that catching the ball, that can happen.
Yeah. I'm hoping that this week we get a consistent pronunciation of his name. Every single time they called his name last week, it was a different name. Jaquez, Jaclear at one point. So, I mean, maybe just, Jock would work.
Yeah.
I think that's actually what he goes by. Anyway,
that is what the kids usually call him, but I mean, last year when we had Jaquez, number 80, back there taking snaps as our second-string quarterback, just the overall aesthetic was kind of ridiculous on the face of it, which I am a fan of. So I think we should just lean into the bit and just mispronounce his name every time because it's funny, and if he keeps making plays, it just kind of adds to the whole of it, and it's just ridiculous, and I love that stuff.
All right, yeah, I mean, it's fun when it's unironic.
Yeah. So here, just a little smash.
Like slot fade. And, I mean, I think this was the best ball he threw all night.
Yeah, just a little.
Able to get it on the outside shoulder on that. I mean, that's just, you couldn't throw it any better than that.
Yeah, little smash slot fade, just a one-on-one matchup with the safety, with the coverage they're running here. And like you said, man, drops it in a bucket.
Yeah, that's an elite throw right there.
Here, just a little rollout inverted smash.
Yeah, this is in case any team wants to play man defense against us. Good luck with that. Right here.
Yep.
You're switching it off. You're just making that second level defender. You're putting him in an impossible spot to guard this out route.
Yeah, it's you get the motion, help identify the coverage. Is it man? Is it zone? Nobody follows him across. Everybody just bumps. And the guy that should be covering him, realistically, you're either getting a one-on-one with the safety who's 10 yards off on an out route, or that linebacker who's still tucked into the box helping on it. And linebacker decides he's just going to follow his rollout rules and try and pressure the quarterback, make a play. And it looks like a simple throw for 5-7 yards, but it's just it. The good ones make the easy plays look easy. Like, nobody looks like they're really trying that hard here, which is a good thing. When you see a play like this, and it looks like the quarterback really has to exert himself to get the ball out there, or it looks like the kids are playing like tight and robotic. You never want to see that. So, it's a 7-yard gain in the highlights, but you make the easy plays look easy. Here, just a little fake tag and go. Catch the safety, cheating. Wide open man. And look at that beautiful pocket there that the line's given him to make that throw too. And it's plays like this, you don't necessarily need to run it against a team when you're doing pretty good, but you want to get that on film consistently, because obviously you see the safety over here up top of number 2, cheats a little bit, sees the tag screen, sees the fake, starts coming downhill, and you just got the number 8 running past him for 6 points. Oh, yeah, that's going for the halfback screen. Like you said, great play. Horrible mental error. Still, great throw on the run. Ball placement right between a couple defenders closing in on him.
Yeah, it's not easy to run to your opposite shoulder and kind of throw it back. So he's running to his right and then throwing to his left. And that's not an easy throw to make at all. But able to keep his eyes downfield, make a great play, something that looks good on film, when it comes to talent and ability. But, like we've said, it was the wrong play.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, this is where, Slaughter is his best, obviously, mental error notwithstanding, is just trying to make a play, make dudes miss in the backfield, be an athlete back there, but eyes downfield, looking to make that throw. It's like we talked about before, a lot of high school quarterbacks, when you get them off their spot, the first thing they're going to do is look to tuck it and run. But he's always looking downfield, looking to try and make that play. Have to know, you either got to, it's not there, you don't like it, whatever. You either got to put it in the dirt or try and make a play with your feet.
Yeah, very good throw.
There. Same play that they tried to run on us earlier with the, let's see here. Wiggins down here at the bottom of the numbers, just running the drive route, and the number 2 up top, just running a deep sit, trying to high-low those backers. Looks like he just... You'd want him to put it on the guy running the deep sit right in the middle of the field with nobody within 10 yards of him, 7, 8 yards of him either way. But gets off a spot a little bit. Scramble drill. Still.
Yeah, I think if that deep sit would have been a sit, instead he brings it right across into the defender.
Yeah. Here, just basic rollout smash concept.
So that was, so that's how we motioned into regular smash.
Yep.
Compared to earlier, we motioned into the inverted smash. Little rollout, has him, got it on the outside of the receiver. Good throw, good catch. Would have liked to see him lead him maybe just a little bit more, but, that's nitpicking.
And here, just kind of same concept we talked about with that inverted smash, just a little boot action. Fullback fakes gets hands on his end for a second or two. Backers are read and run. Get out there to dump the ball off. Pick up an easy 8-10 yards.
Yeah, I love that play. If you're able to get them out of space.
And with as successful as we've been running the ball, this is one of those plays that, like, as a defense, you got to sell out for something. Are you going to let us run for 5 yards a clip? Then you're going to load up the box. When you load up the box, this is just another tool in the tool belt that we can come right back to, get some quick and easy yards, and get the defense thinking about it. Really opens up the run game from there. So with that, getting into our next opponent, St. John Collegiate. Game recap from the Gray Collegiate Academy.
Yeah, so I watched both of these highlights during my lunch break today.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not the first time that I've seen them, but, in general, we can talk about maybe their style, the plays that they're running a little bit, but, I couldn't get a whole lot from these highlights, to be honest. I don't know if it's the competition they were playing or what, but I couldn't get very much from it. The stats for this game are telling, or maybe it's the other one. This might be backwards order of how I watched it, but the stats for the other game, it tells you a lot about them. But
Mm-hmm.
they have athletes, we know that, but. I don't know. I don't know what you got from watching these.
That was pretty much my takeaway. They have dudes on the outside. Running game is, They got a couple multi-tool guys that they like to play in different positions, but the competition left a lot to be desired.
I wasn't able to get a real feel for it from these videos, just because I mean, I think a combination of what highlights are being shown and the fact that the competition doesn't put up a great test, it's hard to tell.
And I mean, the Gray Collegiate Academy, it seems like it looks like, when you're playing NCAA and you're FCS Southwest. Like, you can't get any more bland than your school being named Gray and your colors are white, gray, and black. Like, these are a bunch of fill-in, 65 overall computer players, and that you would expect a team to put up a lot of numbers on, and they do. They kind of do what you expect, but like here, it's just a little play action tunnel screen. Get the ball in your playmaker's hands, and he makes a play.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see a whole lot of downfield shots. A lot of the passing is quick. And, I mean, they got some good playmakers, that's for sure. But, I mean, I don't know. You only get to see so much. I mean, one of the consistent things that we're noticing are defensive touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here's one here. But I think the next game we watch, they have 3 of them.
I believe so.
So I mean, the defense, finds ways to put points on the board. They rally, they scoop and score. The one thing I noticed is that they have a very good, swarming mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Out of a lot of the times that they score on these plays, if you just look at it, I mean, it's a very exciting, hyped up moment for them. It almost reminds you of like an NFL team. They're running down looking for the camera in the end zone after a big play. Every player on the sideline is, they're running with them. I mean, the whole team they're in the game, they're engaged, and it's like they're acting as one big unit. So, I mean, that's something to look for because, that's something that, we do. It's the BlackSwarm. But, I mean, you can definitely see it in them as well, that they're acting as one unit, and they're running down for touchdowns together, they're celebrating together, the guys on the sideline they're in every play. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be an exciting atmosphere between the two of us.
I think that's why this show works so well, is because we both watched these independently of each other and had pretty much the exact same takeaways. Like you said, they get hyped. There was, I can't remember if it was this play or one from the other highlights we're going to see where the defense gets it, and you could see the entire sideline running down the field with him. Yeah. And just everyone getting hyped up together, that tells you the team's a team. It's not like just a bunch of kids going to a school to, get their name out there to get to the next level. They are acting like and function as a whole team, which is something you want to see. When you get just a bunch of dudes coming in to make their own highlight tape, that's how I get playing time against Delaware Red Lion. Whereas something like this, it might be a game for a little while Friday night. But this, I feel like that's you could put like Three Stooges sound effects to this quarterback right here. Trying to make something out of nothing, and when you think you're a gamer and you're not, that's when stuff like this happens. Yeah, here it is. Got the whole team running down, everybody getting hyped up for him.
There goes the Red Sea.
You love to see that.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that's worth noting is that both of the highlights or both the games that I watched were at this field, this stadium. Not really a stadium, it's more of a field. Kind of reminds you of like a NFL practice facility.
Thank you. For the life of me, I could not put my finger on what was up with this field. And that's it. That's exactly it.
Yes, I mean, some of the highlights are a little bit more zoomed out, or like when they're looking down towards the end zone, you can see more of it. But there's a whole lot of extra turf between the stands and the sideline,
Mm-hmm.
almost as if it's designed for other purposes besides just hosting a football game like this. And I think the stands are also, on an angle. So to our left, when the camera pans down there, you can see some of the stands. You can see where the student section
Mm-hmm.
is. I don't know if it's this game or the other game, but you can kind of see it. And you can see that the stands are on an angle. So I'm wondering if like the stands are just completely like separated from the field. It's interesting. It's an interesting layout. But the point I want to make is that they're going to be coming to Paul Brown Tiger Stadium, which is completely the opposite of this. And they're going to be in an enclosure, hopefully surrounded by an entire swarm of people wearing orange and black. And they're going to have to deal with the crowd noise and the atmosphere. And I'm sure at the very beginning, they're going to be really hyped up for it. But hopefully, as the game goes on, we can start to drown them out and make their life a living hell by how loud we are and how much is going on in the stadium to make it really tough on them. So I don't think, no one's used to it, but I definitely don't think they're used to it.
Yeah, to your point, I think the last few weeks, all season really, that the fans have been able to get into the games, that get the opponents shook a little bit, and I think this team in particular, it's going to be the biggest. They are probably going to be the most shell-shocked of any team that comes to Paul Brown this year.
Yeah, Eds has played us before. They played us last year, and Middletown played us last year. Valdosta kind of knew exactly what they were getting themselves into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think this is one where, I'm sure they've seen videos, they've seen highlights, they have an idea, but until you're actually there inside of it, they have no idea. So, if we can be extremely loud and disrupt their play calls and their snap counts and, just give them, the extra little nervousness that it takes, I'm all for it. So let's get that home field advantage. Everybody wants to give us crap for playing home games. We might as well utilize it.
To that point, like, kind of going off on a tangent here, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, how many home games does Massillon have? One, we have to fill our schedule every year because we're not in a league. So we don't have guaranteed games with teams year in, year out. The current makeup of all the teams that we play regularly, Glen Oak, Warren, Fitch, McKinley, they are all home and homes. We play them at their place one year. They play us at our place the next. Every team, like every big name team we've had come in that's not out of state, that's at least fairly local. I think I got a list of them here. Yeah, so just running down like kind of the local teams that have played us in the last few years, Louisville, Worcester, Barberton, Mansfield, Menor, Steubenville, Perry, they have all been home and homes. We get a home game, they get a home game. Obviously Worcester and Barberton backed out of theirs because of one of their years because of COVID. We played at Barberton in 19. They were supposed to play us in 20, but suddenly COVID hits and they don't want to play us anymore. Worcester, we were supposed to play there in 2020. Obviously, that didn't happen either. So they actually fulfill their contract and play us at home in 21. But any local team that wants to play us and play us at least 2 years, we give them a home game. So like that whole talking point, I know it's coming from the ignorant or ill-informed or people that just want to talk shit on Massillon, but that one does irk me a little bit.
Yeah, for context, we're playing a lot of out-of-state teams, and we're not allowed to travel out-of-state.
Correct.
According to HSA. I think you're allowed to go to a neighboring state. Like, I think we could go to Pennsylvania. I think we could go to Indiana. I'm not entirely sure. But, in general, we're not allowed to travel out-of-state for games. So, we get some of these out-of-state teams to come play us. It's good competition. They get the experience to come in here. They get to see our stadium, our community. They get to go see the Hall of Fame. It's a good trip for them, and it's a good game for us. It happens if, Perry, Jackson, were willing to play us. Who else? I mean, I know a lot of the Federal League schools have a tough time because of being in the Federal League, but, we have a week 1 open every year. We have week 3 open every year. They still don't want it. Glen Oak's been putting up with us even throughout their worst years in school history. And, it just kind of shows you who's who, So, I mean, a lot of these teams don't want to play us anymore. I mean, I don't know anything about the Bookville situation, but I'm guessing they're the ones that probably backed out of that deal. We played Bookville week 1 for a while. We used to play Menor week 1. I mean, it is what it is. But we had home and homes with a lot of teams, and it is what it is. I think that if you've read any of the articles from the St. Ed's columnist, he made it a really big deal that the fact that they're playing at Massillon again.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote like 4 articles throughout the week, and every single one of them mentioned about how bad it was that they're playing at Massillon and it should be at Ed's. And he quoted Coach Lombardo in there a few times. And I have a really hard time believing that Coach Lombardo actually complained about it anywhere near as much as the person writing the article made it seem.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was the same quote every time. Like it was, they got him saying it once, and then they just ran with it.
It doesn't seem like something he would say, or if he does say it, it's not something he would harp on, especially not like the day before a game. It's not the Thursday going into the Massillon game and you're criticizing how much you don't want to play at Massillon. So, I mean, I just think that guy had it out for us. But, I mean, one of Lombardo's quotes about it was that the games need to be played at a stadium where the fans fit. And, I mean, that's true. We're not going to go somewhere that only holds 2,000 people. So, I mean, that limits us a little bit, but, I mean, it is what it is. We have a great stadium. We have plenty of, outside schools that are willing to come play us, and we take advantage of it. So, why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Just to the last point, I'm sure Lombardo said that, and he probably used it as a talking point for his players, as coaches are wont to do, just looking for any sort of fuel to the fire. But I think he is more than happy to come to Massillon every year and give his team a big test on the road. Can you go into that hostile environment and perform? And I think in his heart, he loves that, and he probably wants to keep the current schedule as is, for as long as he thinks his team can compete, which, knowing how Ed's is, it's going to be, until the heat death of the universe, really.
It's not just how Ed's is, it's how Iggy is also. So, I think that, Ed scheduled 5 of the very best teams in the state of Ohio this year. And they scheduled 5 of the very best teams from out of Ohio this year. They're not shying away from competition. And it seems like he wants to put his players through the most tests throughout the season to prepare him for the playoffs. And it worked the last 2 years. And I'm sure they're still in a really good spot right now to continue that this year. I think they are. They're ranked like top 5 still. They might be like 3rd in the state. I think it's Hoban, us, then maybe Ed's. I'm not sure. But, I mean, I don't think that Ed's is really complaining anywhere near as much as that guy made it seem. Ed's is going out there. They're scheduling the toughest competition in the toughest places. They're not backing down from anybody, and they're using that as fuel to push them through to another state championship. So, I mean, good on them, but it did irk me specifically that one guy from St. Ed's just talking about that over and over and over again.
I think it would have irked me more if he could bother to, spell check and check his grammar and punctuation in those articles, because there was more than a couple errors that would have been red lines if you handed them to your sophomore high school English teacher. But
yeah, it's surprising how many errors there are in sports writing, or I guess really any writing. But I don't know if it's just because they're trying to get stories out so quickly, or if they're writing them at midnight after games. But yeah, there's a surprising amount of errors.
I mean, unless they're doing straight up talk to text. Like whenever any software that I know of now that when you type something up and there's a misspelling or a grammatical error, it underlines it in some form or fashion. So it literally takes half a second to just look at what you've written and check for any errors.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the just text chat on my phone on the Samsung, it has better grammatical recommendations than Microsoft Word does. Like if I use both, the one on my Samsung is actually gives me way better insight than Word. So I mean, there's plenty of things out there to help you fix your grammar. That's for sure.
Well, that was a journey. Back to the highlights, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to call them that.
Film, I guess would be. Well, you can just call it film.
Yeah, I mean, they are highlights. You can just let it roll, but it's just tough to get a feel for these guys. When you're able to break off a big run here, go untouched. We're going to get into their roster after this, but I mean, they have a big offensive line. They have a lot of skilled players. They have a lot of talent, but it's just hard to tell what team they are in real life based off this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game you probably got to see more than you'll get to see on the next game. So 170 passing yards, 140 rushing yards. They won 42-28. Gave up almost 300 yards. So, I mean, you only get to see one side of the story here, and these highlights are not very long. They only show a couple of plays in general. So,
yeah,
they did throw 2 interceptions.
I think really the thing that stands out to me here is they were only held to third down 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times.
Yeah. And, we obviously didn't see all 3 third downs. I don't know if we saw any of them, really. But 1 for 3 on third down, I don't care how many times you converted it. Just the fact that you were only held to 3 third downs speaks volumes about the level of competition you played.
Yeah, I mean, you saw they broke off a couple big plays, and they had 2 interceptions. So I'm not sure how many drives they had throughout the game total, but in these stats, we know are not always super accurate. But, I mean, yeah, it's definitely an interesting stat, only having 3 third downs in the entire game. So,
yeah. Next.
So this one, I think you get even less of an idea of who they are.
Yeah.
So that's number 3, who is their all-around playmaker, really good athlete. They'll use him everywhere.
Got highlights of him coming up later.
Here's one of their defensive touchdowns.
Just comes in, pokes the ball right out.
Looks like it's a pretty rainy, stormy game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, good play by the defender.
I think this was right before halftime also. Yeah.
But when you got a team full of dudes, that's a play you expect your guy to make. When a quarterback just throws up a duck like that.
Yeah. Here's another one of the, running back goes untouched, one-on-one with the high safety in space, able to make a miss.
I mean, you see this one, this has been the same running play that we've seen all 3 times. You go trips one side, just a little zone run, weak. And, I mean, good on their line, letting them get untouched. Running back finds a hole, but a little slip and slide action there. Good on them, I guess, to have another team's field goal kick in there. Woof.
Yeah, that quarterback just threw up a prayer. Wasn't even close to any of his guys.
Nope.
It says they only have one passing yard on the stats here. And the other team had 120 more yards than they did. Which, again, it's not – these stats aren't super accurate, but I don't think we saw any passing highlights on there.
I mean –
and,
with as rainy as it was and, getting 3 defensive scores, the stats kind of add up. Like, you're just kind of trying to keep it on the ground. Your defense is obviously dominating. Your run game's humming, or at least busting big ones when they need to. So, not necessarily pressed to throw the ball around. They did get held to third down 10 times, which is a marked improvement over the last team. Only converted 4 of them. I would like to see on this, though, fourth down conversions as well. Because, you get teams that if you're a little more aggressive, you like to go for it a lot on fourth. You're going to go for it when you're making that third down play. So if you're just trying to set yourself up for an easy fourth down conversion, then your third down stats really aren't going to tell the whole story. But moving right along, so this is that number 3, I believe, that they play him everywhere. You'll see a lot of snaps of him at running back, at wide receiver, at corner. So get to see a little bit of him.
Yeah, so I haven't seen these highlights, so maybe this will help give me some more insight about the team. But touchdown on a holding penalty.
Just nice little scramble drill on, 4th and goal there? Little wildcat formation, stack backs, kind of an unusual formation right there with 2 guys in the backfield, both offset to one side of the guy taking the snap. But here they just use it like a little eye candy and just run sweep right, I believe. Or Q counter. Kid bounces it, makes a play. Defense just making it too easy. They're just kind of your basic cover 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely not a good coverage.
Wouldn't recommend it.
You can't go cover 3 if your safety's not in any position to cover either side.
This one isn't
in the red zone.
Yeah. This one is an interesting play call because they run just 2 verticals down here with the receivers at the bottom of the screen. Up top, he just ends up running a quick hitch, and it's, 4th and 6, 4th and 7?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a little bit of they're letting him run choice routes out there. That could be, hey, if the corner's pressed up on you, if you got man coverage, run vertical. If he's playing off like that, quick hitch. But interesting play call, throwing well behind the sticks on 4th down. But when you got a dude like that, make a man miss. Makes it look easy sometimes. Here, great little play drawn up for him. Number 1 at trips, you just have your 2 inside guys run vertical clearouts and just a quick little in-breaking route underneath. Clears out the coverage. Whole lot of room to run. So, any final thoughts on what we saw before we actually get into the roster and talk about them a little more?
No, there's nothing that I can comment on the film that wouldn't be better discussed by the roster.
Fair enough. So with that, we'll get out of film room and break down the St. John's Cadets. All right, just saw a little bit of film on the number 1 team in Washington, D.C. They are actually currently ranked 110th nationally, according to CalPreps. So St. John's is coming into Massillon at 3-1. Had a 45-20 loss to American Heritage, a team out of Florida, who is ranked top 50 nationally. Then after that, been on a bit of a tear. Got wins 37-0, 42-28, and 39-17. So, Rob, you want to get into the roster a little bit and tell us about the team coming into Massillon on Friday?
Yeah, so like you said, they're the number 1 team out of DC, and at the beginning of the year, when we kind of previewed the season, we weren't entirely sure what this team was going to be like. Well, after watching film, I'm not entirely sure what this team is going to be like. But what I can tell you is that on paper, they're absolutely the real deal. They're ranked really high. They have a national ranking, like Hank said. They have college-bound players littered all over the team. So, let's just get into it a little bit. But this team, on paper, absolutely is the real deal. And I'm hoping that the film we watched, it was just because of the competition that we're going to get a real feel for them. So, starting up front with the offensive linemen, they're a little young. They go sophomore, junior, sophomore. But they're really big. So, 6'5", 285, 6'3", 315, 6'3", 290, 6'1", 265, 6'3", 300. So averaging, let's call it 290 across the board, 285 across the board. Their shortest guy is 6'1". Then they go 6'3", 6'3", 6'3", 6'5". So they have a lot of size on that offensive line. And 3 of them have ratings. 2 of them are 2 stars. 1 is a 3-star. They all hold Division I Power 5 offers. A couple to Maryland, West Virginia, the likes of that. So we didn't get to see too much of how they really performed from the film. We saw a couple of good runs with holes that opened up, but there's not a big enough sample size, I don't think, to see absolutely how dominating they are or how dominating they're not. It's going to be tough, but in general, they're a really big line. They are a little young, but they have a few really good players across the board. Very solid. But like a lot of the other teams we face this year, they're prone to hold every now and then. And especially with our defensive front, hopefully we can take advantage of that. Hopefully the refs call it, and we can get a few cheap ones.
Yeah. The more I look at this roster, they are turning into like an all-name team. You got Adrian Hamilton, a Hamilton in D.C. You got Kenneth McManus there at center. Bobby Longo at right guard. Just like the more I look at this roster, and I mean this in a very endearing way, it's like the East-West Shrine Bowl Key and Peele skit. It's, again, I love just dumb shit like this, so this team is right up my alley the more I get into it.
Yeah, they got a few good names on here for sure. So that was the offensive line. They do have a few fullbacks, tight ends that they use. Not a whole lot to discuss with them. The skill players, they're real dangerous. We've seen it, we've shown it. Number 3 is their star player. He's one of the better players we've seen all year. Maybe one of the better we'll see for the rest of the year. Very solid. He's a senior, 5'10", 200. I mean, from the film, you could tell that he had a pretty good frame on him. They'll use him in the backfield. They put him out for receiver. At first, I didn't realize he was that big. I was thinking he was more of a receiver that could play running back, but really it looks like he's more of a running back that can play receiver. So at that size, he's able to make guys miss, and that's a really dangerous combo. He's a 3-star commit to Oregon. So, if you're going to Oregon, I mean, they're a top 10 team right now, and they're known for what? Speed. So, I mean, he's 5'10", 200, and I can only assume he's got some pretty good speed on him. So, I mean, he's a really dangerous player, and you got to watch him because they're going to move him around and always be wary of where he is. So, I mean, that's the dog right there. But with him, they have another senior and 2 juniors, 5'10", 170, 6'1", 210, 5'9", 165. Number 11, he is the other senior, and he's a good ball player as well. I mean, they're not going to move him around like they do number 3, but when it comes to just being the receiver, that's his job, and he does it really well. So, don't think just because 3 is lined up somewhere else that they can't go to number 11 still. I mean, they can spread it around to anybody, and 11's a really good ball player as well.
So I was wrong when I said that he got some playing time at corner too. The thing that threw me off is when I found him on Huddle, his only position listing was cornerback. Yeah, and then I watched the highlights. I'm like, I took it away the first time, like, that's weird. You didn't see any actual like highlights of him playing corner. And then I kind of forgot about that, and that just stuck in my head. So I'm like, okay, yeah, he's this guy just everywhere. So, yeah, they use him everywhere on the offensive side of the ball.
Yep, so the guy that's listed as their starting running back, he's a senior, 5'10", 210. He's a very physical runner, downhill runner, strong kid. But based on the footage we've seen, it seems like 3 has gotten more of the, snaps on highlights at running back than 5 did. So I'm not entirely sure how those roles work or what the ratio is. If 5 is really the starting running back, you just don't see him on highlights very often. We don't know. There's just not a big enough sample size out there on what we've seen, at least, to give you a great answer. But he has good size to him, 5'10", 210. So, just like the other kid, there are going to be some bruising backs, and, it's going to be a long night in the trenches. Their quarterback is a junior, 6'3", 190. You saw some of how he played. He's able to get the ball where it needs to be every now and then, but he's not anything special. We've seen quarterbacks better. We've seen quarterbacks worse. He's going to go out there and, at the best, be a game manager for him. I think his job is to distribute the ball to the playmakers, and I don't think they ask too much of him. You saw a few rollouts. You saw a few screens, a few hitches. We never really saw them press the ball downfield at all, from the highlights at least. So I don't think he's the kind of kid that's going to drop back and sling it all over, compared to last week. I know that if you're only going off how that kid played against us last week, you might not think that greatly of him. But the quarterback we played last week was a really good quarterback. He could throw the ball really well. This week, I don't think this kid's going to throw it anywhere near as well. Doesn't mean that he won't have more yards or, a better success. But I think it has more to do with what's around him, the system, the line that he has, not really his individual talent. And that's essentially their offense. They got a few other guys that they'll use. They have a sophomore running back who he's already a 3-star rated player, has a few offers. I'm sure they'll mix him in. He's number 0, I believe.
Yeah, so one thing with the running back, they play him at, kind of a fullback, a blocking back a little bit, and I think they use him a lot like we use Zion back in 19, where he can sub in at running back, but he's, going to be also a blocking back a lot. And with that, I think what you couldn't really, I didn't look this hard at the highlights. I'm just kind of putting this together now. But I think, if they want to trot out 4 wide personnel, you can put him and have an adequate running back in the backfield and split out number 3 as a wide receiver. And then if you want to go a little bit heavier personnel without having to substitute, you can just bump your running back up at fullback and bring number 3 into the backfield as a running back. And suddenly you have 6 blockers and a dude in the backfield without having to sub personnel. So I think, if they want to go hurry up, change the look on the defense a little bit, you can catch a defense if they're trying to, if a defense wants to sub personnel, say in like a 3rd and long situation, go 3 safeties, go a little bit lighter in the box, you hit that first down, and then they can hurry up to the line, go heavier, and catch the defense off guard. I'm a big fan of when you have kids that can do that, play multiple roles like that, and almost get different like personnel group substitutions without having to change anyone on the field. So that's something to look for. I imagine that's how they use them. And again, just an all name team. Isaiah French, quarterback, hell of a name right there. Sink Blount, running back. You got Amir Wallace-Jones is a blocking back. And then obviously their dude number 3, DeJuan Riggs. Ideally, if OSHA can get their shit together and we can get our DeJuan back, that'd be kind of a fun matchup, DeJuan versus DeJuan.
Yeah, absolutely. Different spelling, probably different pronunciation as well. But, if we move on to the defense, so one of the things that I noted from the stats was that some of these teams were able to put up yards on St. John's, specifically rushing yards. So up front, they go junior, freshman, sophomore, junior. Now, 2 of the players are rated players, a 2-star and a 3-star. Maryland offers, West Virginia offers. I mean, that's kind of the common theme for, the D.C. area. In this team in general, a lot of that Maryland, West Virginia. But, they go 6'3", 220, 6'2", 250, 6'3", 230, 6'2", 225. So by no means are they one of the larger defensive lines we've seen so far this year. I think we can and will line up against them and try to run it right at them and see how long they can sustain it. We see how dangerous their defense can be in the back end. They make plays, they go after interceptions. But up front, I'm thinking they've given up yards to other teams. And, even though they have a couple good players, they don't have a whole lot of size, at least on the starting roster. So I think we can line up against them and run. If we finish it off with the rest of the interior, their linebackers are both seniors. They're both 6'1", 210. One of them is committed to Cincinnati. He's a 3-star player. So, again, this team is just littered with rated D1 commits, D1 offers at every single level of offense and defense. So, they got players everywhere, but I'm hoping by just the size of their interior that we should be able to run on them.
Yeah. They play a 3-safety defense, so really only 2 linebackers in the box consistently. Linebackers are numbers 4 and 44, just adding to the overall aesthetic of this team, which I just can't get over. I'm falling more in love with this the longer I look at this roster. You got
Alex Provencher and Monte Whedon.
Alex Provencher sounds like he played for the Steel Curtain back in the 70s. Just big old neck roll, oversized shoulder pads, missing a couple teeth, eye black, got the cutoff baggy jersey. This is again, I can't get over this team the more I look at the roster. Then you got, big number 88, Marcus Ogbogu, it simultaneously is hard to pronounce and rolls right off the tongue. You got Ray Urquilla, or I'm gonna go with just the Spanish pronunciation, Urquilla. The double L turned into a Y just because it sounds funner to me. Tariq Boney, D'Angelo Bowden wouldn't be the okay. The Bowden name's kind of giving me like flashbacks a little bit right now, but otherwise still loving this aesthetic of this roster right now.
Yeah, we have a few others that we're going to get to here as well. So don't think that they don't have some more names coming up. Talking about that 3 safety look, like you said, one's a freshman, one's a junior, one's a senior. So the freshman is actually listed as their nickel. So, without going back and looking at it, depending on what they consider a nickel, he's 6 foot 180.
Structurally,
is that more like a hybrid type of player, or is he strictly like a third corner nickel?
So I guess defensively, structurally speaking, that would most people consider the nickel like you're subbing out your Sam linebacker. So think like a Vito McConnell. I think the big difference in how you would use them is, we kind of our Sam can play the run and the pass. We'll keep him either a pretty fair split between the box and the receivers, unless it's a specific coverage. If we're marking him down as a nickel, then it's probably more of a he's out of the run fit. He's not anywhere near the box. He's going to be over the receivers, just playing strictly pass game.
Yeah. So freshman 6 foot 180. The other 2 safeties 6'2", 190, 6'1", 185. So some decent size for safeties. One is a 3-star, Shamar McIntosh, and the other is a 4-star, Tariq Hayer. So Shamar has some big time offers, including the likes of Tennessee, Tariq, the same idea, Tennessee, Notre Dame, the West Virginias, Maryland's, all of that. So, those are 2 really good players. So I'm guessing that the freshman, he's good enough to go out there and play, but he's probably the weak link when it comes to the safeties. Mm-hmm. And then if we get to the corners, one is a sophomore, one is a senior. They're both 6'2", one is 185, one is 175. The sophomore is already a 3-star rated athlete, and he has a few Big Ten offers. So just littered with athletes all over the field. And if you want to go for it, I think that's the winner in the clubhouse for name.
Yeah, Hakeem Satterwhite. I don't know where they're getting these names from, but just keep pulling them. I want if this team can field names like this every year, I want to see them on the schedule every single year. Satterwhite, it's an incredible name, and let's not overlook his other buddy Roman Richardson. On the face of it, it doesn't necessarily stand out, but you got to love the alliteration with it. The double R. Roman Richardson rolls right off the tongue.
No, Roman Richardson is absolutely like a celebrity name.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas Hakeem Satterwhite is a great name. You could see him playing corner for the Chicago Bears someday. Roman Richardson is going to be in movies.
Yeah. No, that's definitely
that's an actor.
That's definitely a stage name to where you're born a John or a Bob, and you kind of you develop your personality a little bit earlier on, and you like the attention, so it's I'm Roman now.
Just absolute great name.
And then Shamar McIntosh. Also a great name. They got a freaking Apple computer out there playing strong safety for him. Tariq Hayer. That name gives me a lot more strong safety vibes. It's just your classic monster back rolling up into the box, making tackles out on the edge. That's when I hear Tariq Hayer, I'm picturing, and I can't think of his name, the strong safety from the Legion of Boom.
Oh. Well,
Cam Chancellor, yeah.
I was gonna say I had it until you ruined it for me.
Yeah, I'm getting just strictly from the name. I'm getting big Cam Chancellor vibes from that.
True care. Okay.
And Tyreek Powell. Obviously, Powell was a great safety for Ohio State. My knee-jerk react.
Tyvis.
Yeah.
Powell. And God, God, I was so upset when he left a year early and then went undrafted. I think he ended up on a practice squad, and that was it.
Yeah.
Him and Jalen Marshall, they could have came back for an extra year. They both go undrafted. Oh, I mean, I get it. There was no NIL back then, but man, Ohio State was loaded and just.
Yep. And
Tyvis Bell was on for Ohio State and just couldn't pan out.
And you want to hear a horrifying thought? Is my knee-jerk reaction was.
Bo Nix was probably playing.
What?
Bo Nix probably played. Back then.
I wouldn't doubt it, but my knee-jerk reaction was to say, you remember that safety for Ohio State back in the day? And then I'm like, wait, it couldn't have been that long ago to say back in the day. Oh, wait, that was like 8-10 years ago. We're getting old, buddy.
Yeah, it's when we were in college.
Yep. But, so yeah, that's their roster overall. Obviously, they have my vote for MVP of all team name. Getting slightly more serious for a second, we saw they like to operate out of the spread. A lot of four receiver stuff. They'll use a fullback a little bit of split backs. Not much. You couldn't really see much schematically, I guess, in their highlights. They ran a tunnel screen, 4 verts for a play, and quick hitch outside. Run game looks like pretty much all zone. A little bit of a counter pulling the guard tackle, but I think their offense is going to be very similar to Mansfield, where they have actually no, they're like a juiced up Mansfield. They have a dude that the offense runs through, but they do have more athletes than Mansfield did that they can come up and make plays when they need to.
Like a good Warren team?
Yeah.
Like a good McKinley team?
No, I would say McKinley generally has better line play. And McKinley is, they're not usually this loaded with dudes, but I would say their bottom end is usually pretty decent. They're generally not like slacking at any particular position group. I would say they're halfway. They're kind of like a mix between a Warren and a McKinley. Much more Warren leaning, I would say, just in the lack of scheme, cohesiveness, and a lot more of like, okay, kids, let's go out there and make a play.
I get
it. Defensively, they changed it up between 1 and 2 high, even and odd front. A little bit of the 3-3 stack, which we haven't seen in a while. I think that fad's kind of dying out a little bit, is in Ohio football at least.
I think we ruined it.
Yeah, that was a big. That was kind of making its way through Northeast Ohio. Fucking hell, 5 years ago when we started this show.
There was like back-to-back years where we faced 3-3 stacks consistently and just averaged 10 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Every single team. Didn't matter. I mean, Wadsworth tried playing us in the playoffs, and it's like, you're not going to do the stack, right? Like, we just beat 4 stack teams in a row horribly. And Wadsworth came out, they're like, yeah, no, we're gonna do the stack. After the first drive, they're like, nah, we can't do the stack.
I mean, so on the one hand, it's like you gotta ride the horse in that brought you there, right? But when you're just getting bullied like that up front, and I think it goes back to what you said about with Coach Cup earlier. It's great on paper, and conceptually, it's a fine defense. Like there's no real glaring holes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as popular as it was. But
yeah, if you have 3 studs up front with good size to them, you can make it work. But as soon as you have one kid that loses gap integrity, those linebackers are in for a hell of a night.
I think honestly, I think it would take a team with the skill level of like Maslin up front, where we have 3 bona fide dudes with their hands in the dirt. We consistently run 3 down, but it's not the 3-3 stack structure or philosophy behind it. With the stack, it's like you're trying to blitz a guy every time. You're blitzing into common defensive fronts. Honestly, you're kind of like, you better be good with the film study because you're playing off the offensive tendencies. And if you're wrong, if you're facing a really good offense, I could play off that and figure out what you're trying to do and attack that. And, when it comes down to it, if you just don't have the horses up front to get it going, if you don't have the juice, then it ain't going to work. And I think a lot of teams around here took their lumps learning that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hopefully they run that against us all night. But they're multiple, like you said. So I guess we'll have to pick and choose what we do against them.
Yeah, so, just to put a bow on that, the very aggressive defense. We saw the one game they got 21 points. I think they try to live off those takeaways, swarming to the ball, getting all 11 hats around the ball carrier, coming up, making plays. Overall, they, for whatever lack of scheme that they might not have, they play together as a team, and that's something you really want to see. I think that can make up for a lot. So it is facing up to be another fun game on Friday. Can't wait to see it. So with that, last week I said that since we had to move recording a day back, that we wouldn't be able to get the spreads. And then immediately after that episode came out, our local Sharp shot you a text and was like, hey, so when do you need the spreads by then? So big shout out to him hooking us up that we can get our fun little segment back. So with that, Rob, let's hear it. What's going around the area?
All right, let's just jump right into it here. The first game is going to be Perry at Hoover. Hoover is 6.5 point favorites. So Hoover played McKinley kind of tough last week, and Perry just absolutely demolished Louisville, which they were supposed to win. I think they were like 20-some point favorites, and they beat him 49-6. So I thought Perry was kind of having a down year. I still think they might be having a down year, but Louisville is just...
congratulations on Perry to be able to schedule a scrimmage week 6 of the regular season. It's always good, even if you're in a down year, you get that kind of get right game, or at least like lift the spirits a little bit. I do want to mention, you said Hoover gave McKinley a game, and I thought when McKinley demolished Perry, they finally got that monkey off their back of letting up on the little white boys and letting them stay in a game where they shouldn't have been, and then Hoover comes out and is neck and neck with them.
It actually went downhill from there, because the week before that, they almost lost to Green. They were down big at halftime and had to come back. So, McKinley was able to beat Perry, but then they really struggled against Green, and then they were winning against Hoover, but they kind of let Hoover climb back, and then a little back and forth. I think McKinley kept the lead the whole time, but they let Hoover stay around.
To be fair to McKinley, which is not something we really have to do on this show, we saw the same thing when we played Hoover in the playoffs back in 2020. We got up big on them and just kind of let off the gas a little bit, like, all right, let's get out of here, boys. And Hoover stayed in it the whole time. They tried to mount a comeback. I think, not to say if there was more clock, they would have made it a game, because I think if there was, we would have stayed just as much in it and kept our foot on the gas, but they're a team that they don't give up. They're gonna run their offense. They're not just gonna pack it up and, all right, let's just try and get out of here, kids, when it's halfway through the third quarter if they're down bad. So all that to say, Perry sucks, Hoover, and the points.
Yeah, I kind of like that also. Lake is coming off of a hot win over Jackson last week, and they're playing at McKinley, and McKinley is 11.5 point favorites.
I think McKinley is tired of letting these, at least on paper, inferior teams stay in it. So I'm looking for them to come out hot, stay hot, and just absolutely bury Lake.
Yes, this will be the game for them to do it. Lake is a good team, and I'm not saying that's the reason, but when we go back, they struggled against Green really badly in the first half. And then Hoover, I think they came out hot, but kind of let them stick around. So maybe this is the game where they come out hot, stay hot, don't let the team come back. I could see it happening. McKinley's a good team, but they showed glimpses of vulnerability. So if they want to start putting it together, this is a good time to get rolling. With that being said, I think Lake is a pretty good team. Beating Jackson last week really proved it to me. I thought Jackson was pretty good by Federal League standards, and then they just crapped the bed against Lake. So I think this is a tough one to call. I'm going to take Lake. I could see McKinley winning by 10, but 11.5. I think Lake covers.
Okay.
Let's see here. Jackson coming off that tough loss, 7.5-point favorites at Glen Oak.
Glen Oak's been making at least a little bit of noise this season, right?
Yeah. They've been good against the spread.
So Glen Oak's I'll put them in the feisty category. I think Jackson had their souls taken from them against Lake, so I'm looking for them to come out flat. I will take Glen Oak.
I'm thinking, or at least hoping, that Jackson recognizes that there is still an open door for them to win the Fed, and they don't let that loss against Lake shake them up too bad. They go right back to what they were doing earlier in the year. They use Glen Oak as that rebound game, because as much as Glen Oak has been feisty, we still know that they're not a great team. So 7.5 points. I think Jackson covers, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if Glen Oak really made it a game and they cover. If I had to pick one, I'm going Jackson. We got Mogador going to Central. Central is 1.5-point favorites. And I guess a fun little fact is that Mogador is who knocked Central out of the playoffs last year.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I had absolutely nothing for this game. So with that, Central, 1.5 favorites, basically a pick 'em. Looking for a bit of a revenge game. I think that's enough that Central needs. Give me Central.
Yeah, apparently these are the top two teams in the region outside of Kirtland. So they would be 2 and 3. Not sure who's 2, not sure who's 3. I know that Central's not great, and I know nothing about Mogador. It's at Central. Let's go with the revenge game. Central covers. So here's a fun one, a little bit of a holy war for you. St. Ignatius is going to the field where St. Ed's is going to be considered the home team.
That they also happen to share, correct?
And Ed's is 31.5-point favorite.
Holy hell. 31.5. That's a lot of points. Has Iggy been shut out twice this season, or was it twice in a row these last 2 weeks?
Twice in a row, I think. And you say 31 is a lot of points, but that's been like consistently the spread against Ignatius, no matter who they are.
Woof.
Toledo Central Catholic last week was like 40. I mean, I still have it. I guess I can look it up. But,
I mean, TCC's the defending state champs in D2? D2. And then they bumped down to D3 this year? Okay.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's...
Maybe it was 2 weeks ago.
That's something I would expect from that.
Hoban was 24-point favorites against Iggy 2 weeks ago. I forgot that the Toledo Iggy game wasn't one of our games in our league, but I did see it on Reflogs, and I think they were high 30s point favorites against Iggy. Iggy's down bad. They're playing for pride. Ed's, for as good and disciplined as they are, have an eye to the postseason by now. I will take Ed's all day, every day, twice on Sunday, straight up, but I think Iggy digs deep and finds it in themselves to cover, if only by 1 point. Yeah, I think in order for that to happen, they're going to have to stop Ed's, because I don't know if Ignatius can score points. So if their defense can step up, hold heads, I mean, you got a chance. But based on how they've been playing throughout the year, without knowing really anything about Ignatius' roster, I'm guessing they don't have the kids up front to consistently stop Ed's running game. So I'm going to take Ed's to cover because I think they're going to go out there, do what they do, and ultimately they're just not going to let Iggy score. So if Eds can go out there and score 35 points, I think they cover.
Listen, I'm looking for plus money on some of these games, all right? Not that we gamble on it, but it's boring picking chalk every time.
Yeah, I get it. The next one is Cincinnati Moeller, 3.5-point favorites going to Cincinnati Elder. Interestingly, neither one of these teams are ranked in the top 10, or it has it number 6 and number 11 in the state. Huh. All right, but it comes down to who you ask, I guess, because as I think I saw you retweet or repost, there's only 2 public schools in the top 10 for the entire state, Massillon and Avon. And the person that put the ratings together said that he can't remember the last time that there were only 2 public schools rated in the top 10 teams in the state. And neither of them were D1 schools. Massillon and Avon are the only 2. So that disparity is starting to grow more and more each year. But I guess Moeller's not a public school. But the point remains.
Oh, you were going somewhere with that. And then
Yeah. So either way, 8 of the 10 are parochial schools. Moeller's ranked number 6. I don't know whose ranking that is. I don't know if that was the same ranking as we had or not.
So
that we were looking at that post, but nevertheless.
Yeah, the one ranking.
2 really good teams playing each other.
The one ranking I retweeted, it was the math professor out in Worcester, I believe. And
yeah.
you see a lot of people online giving him shit for like, oh, why is this like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 team ranked like so high, or just picking and prodding with little stuff. But it's just all formulas based on the competition and how they were last year and the year before that, I think. So that's like, take it with a grain of salt. But I saw him and Reflog had a little thing back and forth about how his equations matched up with the spread, and they were pretty even. So it's not like it's a bad predictor. It's not just some nerd plugging in numbers. Like he knows football. It's just he's a math professor, so he kind of looks at it through that lens. So, like you said, a lot of different ratings out there. All that being said, I'm a fan of underdogs, so I can't remember which one you said had the +3.
Elder
at home +3. I'll take Elder at home.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment for that one. I mean, interestingly enough, I think this is the region where everyone makes the playoffs no matter what.
That one.
Yeah, that's the fun region. So, whoever comes out on top of this region ends up playing an 0-10 team in the playoffs. That's always fun. Here's a interesting game. Walsh Jesuit is going to Hoban, and Hoban 17.5-point favorites. So Walsh is a team that is also rated pretty highly. Not top 10 material, but they have a pretty high ranking. Hoban is in that top 3, depending on where you look at. I think they're top 3 everywhere. So Hoban 17.5-point favorites at home against Walsh.
I think in a vacuum I would hammer Hoban. However, they have a kind of a track record of putting up stinkers, and by that I mean like not winning by 50 against teams they should win by 50. They do seem like they have a tendency to look ahead a little bit every so often against certain opponents. A lot of times that opponent happens to be the opponent before they play Massillon, so good to know we're on their mind a lot. All that being said, I think this is one of those games. It's getting a little late in the season. It's starting to become a slog a little bit. Hoban is always a team with a target on their back, and they don't always necessarily perform like they should in games like that. So give me Walsh to cover, but I like Hoban straight up.
Yes, I mean, Walsh always plays Hoban really tough. And last year, when they played each other, Hoban won by 12. According to this, Walsh is ranked 7th in the state. I'm not sure which ranking that is because I don't think I've seen them on the one that I looked at most recently. I mean, they're a good team, but this is really their first true test at playing a ranked, strong caliber team. So it'll be interesting. They always play Hoban really well, and I mean, rooting for them. Penn State, 26.5-point favorites at Northwestern. He gets rattled through the college once he won.
I know Northwestern is down spectacularly bad. They're on their high horses coming off a last-second emotional win in, I think it was overtime last week. Penn State's coming off like a 30-something-to-nothing victory over Iowa. You know, Iowa plays everybody tough, if not excruciatingly, painfully without offense. So I think this is a game Penn State's going to be licking their bruises a little bit. Northwestern is riding high, so I like them to cover.
I can see that happening. I mean, Penn State's a really good team. Drew Aller's a pretty good quarterback for him. Should be at Ohio State right now. And I think McCord's doing okay. He's getting better each week, but I mean, Drew Aller should be at Ohio State right now. Iowa is a tough one. So coming off of that, I like your reasoning for it. I could see Northwest sticking around just enough to cover. I mean, it's 26.5 points, so it doesn't take a whole lot. So I could see that. USC, 21.5-point favorites at Colorado.
Colorado just got their shit astronomically rocked in front of the entire nation last Saturday.
Yeah.
By a team that, you know, should have done that. I think Colorado had a pretty nice wake. It's been a fun story, but they had a pretty good wake-up call. They were the worst team in college football last year. So the fact that they were even 3-0 going into that game against Oregon was fun. You know, good for them. USC, not necessarily known for their defense. It's the more stuff I listen to in college football, it's just Lincoln Riley is bringing his boy Alex Grinch everywhere he goes. He had him at Oklahoma. He brought him to USC with him. Their defense can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. For some reason, they are just allergic to tackling. So I think Colorado will be able to put up a lot of points. You know, they might be able to put up 1 billion points on Saturday. That being said, I think USC is going to put up 2 billion. So hammer USC to cover.
Yeah, I mean, I think USC absolutely dominates this game. Like you're saying, if they stick with that Big 12 defense, then Colorado can get some points on the board. But, I mean, Oregon exposed really what everybody already knew about Colorado, but the previous teams weren't able or unwilling to expose it. Colorado has nobody up front on either side. Their offensive line can't block. Their defensive line can't get off blocks. So if you're going to go out there and try to win in a shootout and just play the worst god-awful defense I've ever seen in my entire life, like TCU did, then that's not the recipe. But if you go out there and smack them in the mouth and take it right to them, pretty good chance you're going to be able to establish the line on both sides and dominate the game. So it just depends on where you go from there. I think USC will be able to put up enough points that they can get away with giving up a few crappy defensive situations. So I like USC to cover. Georgia, 14.5-point favorites at Auburn.
Has Georgia played or done anything this year?
What do you mean? They just got done playing Stark Tech sister college of the poor from Alaska.
Oh, Alaskan Stark, Texas. They've been on a tear this year up there, up there in the SWIAC.
Yeah.
I haven't seen or heard a single thing about Georgia outside like catching the box score or an offhanded mention of Georgia won a game. They haven't played anyone. That being said, I think Auburn's still hot doo-doo. So, what'd you say, 14? Yeah, give me Georgia to cover easily.
Kansas is traveling to Texas. Texas, 17.5-point favorites.
Ooh. Kansas. Okay, Kansas State's always the zig when everyone zags team in the Big 12. Kansas basketball school. I don't know anything about Kansas football. I know Kentucky's surprisingly fun this year. I know Kansas State always likes to play spoiler in the Big 12. I can't tell you a single thing about Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about them. And because of that, I'm picking Texas to cover because I do know a thing or two about Texas.
Oh, yeah. No, Texas, they beat Alabama straight up. They didn't get a couple lucky breaks and the ball bounced their way a few times. They beat Alabama. They went in there and they kicked their ass. So give me Texas to cover.
Michigan, 18.5-point favorites at Nebraska.
Nebraska finally got a win. They didn't cover last week. Michigan has also been playing, I think, roughly the same schedule that Georgia has. But Michigan is still...
Yeah, I think I saw them. I think I saw Michigan playing at St. Mary's last week.
Oh, that was them.
Like downtown Massillon.
Yeah, I thought... Oh, dude.
It kind of looked like them at least.
I thought that was like Orville Southwest or something, and they just like happened to be borrowing old Michigan helmets.
It was the same
yeah.
helmet, yeah.
Yeah, no. Michigan, they haven't played anybody, but they're still really good. They cover handily.
Yeah, I don't think 18.5 points is enough. But, yeah, I mean, Michigan hasn't played anybody. Nebraska, they're the ones that played Colorado already, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I like Michigan to cover. LSU, 2.5-point favorites at Ole Miss.
Lane Kiffin was making a show last week in the media about how, we might be seeing the last of Nick Saban coaching. He's getting older. We know their defensive calls, this, that, and the other. Came out, played a good 3 quarters against Bama, and then absolutely got their shit rocked at the end. LSU's a really good team, but I think Lane's going to have a point to prove on Saturday, so I'm taking Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm not a big Brian Kelly fan, so I'm taking Ole Miss also. I think LSU has some talent. I just don't trust it with him leading it.
Right there with you.
Notre Dame, 5.5-point favorites at Duke.
Oh yeah, Duke's a football school now.
Probably the most expensive tuition matchup in the country.
Outside of the Ivy League, yeah, absolutely. Notre Dame coming off a heartbreaking loss to Ohio State. Managed to only have 10 players on defense on not one, but both of the last plays of the game. What was it? What's his name said we didn't want to take the penalty running the 11th guy out there. But spoiler, you can take as many offside, false start, illegal substitutions as you want when the ball is on your own 1-yard line because there's not a penalty on earth that will give the offense a touchdown. So I think Notre Dame, it's going to go one of two ways. They're going to come out hot and they're going to absolutely bury Duke, or they're going to come out and lay an absolute stinker. And I think Duke, now somehow is just good enough to put up a fight. And give me Duke to cover.
I'm kind of leaning the other way. I think Notre Dame gave Ohio State a really good game. And I think Ohio State was the better team in the matchup. But I think Notre Dame showed that they are a pretty good team. I mean, I know Duke is, on the up and up here, but I don't know if they are quite as complete as Ohio State defensively. And I don't know if they'll be able to stop Notre Dame quite as much as we did. With that, I think Notre Dame's offense, I was about to say the exact same thing, but essentially, I think that Notre Dame is going to be able to score more points, and I don't know if Duke's offense is going to be able to completely outshine Ohio State's offense. So because of that, I think Notre Dame covers.
Yeah, that's one of those I'm going completely against my brain, going strictly off what I think is what could be the vibe of the game and just my preference for dogs. So,
Bama, 14.5-point favorites at Mississippi State.
Obviously, losing a head coach in the way that they did, not great. They're having a tough time rebuilding. Mississippi State, I should say. R.I.P. Mike Leach. They are very much in a rebuilding mode, not necessarily with the players, but with the scheme, and I think they can't necessarily get on the same page yet. Bama really needs to exercise some demons, and I think this is going to be a game that they're, looking to try and get back and look like their old selves again. I think Nick Saban is tired of squeaking out wins against what he would consider inferior opponents. And their quarterback, I think he wasn't the starter at the beginning of the year, if I recall correctly. And they switched to him, and he played most, if not all, of the Ole Miss game. So I'm looking for him to be a little more comfortable in the system as the starter now, and they're going to come out and absolutely bury Mississippi State.
Yeah, I like Alabama to cover. I think they're in that spot where they're going to try to make a run for the SEC championship. And, Saban, he gets his guys going. So, I mean, like you said, if they had the big fourth quarter last week, I think they keep that motive. They keep that going. And I expect Bama to come out hot. So the last one is the Massillon game. If you want to take a guess at that.
Give me Massillon minus 42.
Massillon minus 42. Okay. It's Massillon minus 7.
What?
But do you forget this team has 10 Division I players on it?
So did this Delaware team.
No.
Their entire offensive skill room, wide receiver room, and quarterback.
Middletown had a couple of skill players that were highly ranked, and that was it. And they had no line to block for them. They had no time to get anything out. I think a couple of those athletes might have been a little bit overrated. Not to say that this team is insanely legit, but you think they doubled the spread of what it was against Middletown? I mean, Middletown was, 20-something, right?
What was it? It was 41-7, so 30.
I'm saying I think the spread
was
28. The spread was 28.
Yeah, I am not high on this team. It's like, it's fun to say that they're number one in Washington, D.C., but that's like saying McKinley's the number one team in Canton.
I get that, and normally I'm fully on board with that, but not usually the DC teams we play aren't stacked with this many big Power 5 D1 offers. With that being said, I think Massillon covers, but also, I mean, we don't know who we're missing right now. Last week we're missing Owens, we're missing Lewis, we're missing Liebler, we're missing Keller. I don't know if all of them are back. I don't know if none of them are back. I mean, it looked good for us last week, but you could use these players back for sure. And I mean, who knows? I have no clue what the situation is going to be. Who's able to play, who's not able to play. I think it could have been more than 7. I don't think anywhere near 42 is what I would have picked for somebody else to set the spread at.
Okay, what would have been your blind guess?
What I think the Sharps would have set the spread at?
Yeah.
17.5.
God. I mean,
I'm not real high on this team either. Watching them on film, I probably would have taken Maslin to cover 17.5 if I knew everyone was healthy, or if we had the same. If everybody from last week is still playing, I'm probably taking Maslin to cover 17.5. But I'm taking DC to cover 42.
Yeah, I guess now that we rattle off the list of everyone that's out, we saw Fair get banged up.
They were out. I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, everybody
Fair got hurt also.
Yep, don't know what's up with him, but he get up. Yeah, he got up. He walked off the field. He looked fine. A stinger. Could be a stinger. Could be one of those torn ACLs that you just don't know about.
Anything, yeah.
Debilitating concussion, bad paper cut. We don't know. There's no injury reports for high school. All we know is he got up, he walked off the field just fine. Yeah, so I would like to reset my guess. Knowing all that, thinking about it a little harder, I probably would have said Maslin minus 24.
Okay. I mean, I could understand that one. I think this is a really good team, and I don't want the fans to take it lightly. I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that say, oh, we're playing a DC team. All the DC teams we play sucked in the past. It's a cakewalk week. But I think it's a good team, and they have really good players across the board, and I don't want people to not show up or, not take it serious, because I think they are a good team. With that being said, I think we win. I think we cover. But, we're a little banged up right now. So,
and I do want to say, I didn't initially set that line because I think this team stinks. We talked about them before. I think they're a really good Warren team. They have a lot of dudes. I just think that I have seen a healthy Maslin team bring a whooping to those better Warren teams. I think I was speaking from the place of Maslin is just that good, not that this team is bad. It's still going to be a fun game. I just, a fully healthy, 100% Maslin team, I would expect us to I would take Maslin minus 42. How we are now with, all the guys banged up, out for whatever reason. And again, we don't know if they're going to be just fine Friday or not, but I will set that line a little lower, but I still expect us to come out and have a fun win. I'll put it like that.
I think we're going to control the line of scrimmage, and I think we're going to run on them a lot. And with that usually leads to lower scoring games, more running clock. So I could see us having success on the ground while also not putting up an insane amount of points. But I guess we'll see.
That's true. I'm also looking back to the game plan last week. We didn't have the one. Obviously, this is a team we could run on. We had multiple guys put up. We had Gamble, I don't know if we're going to more of a running back by committee or we were just giving him more time in the spotlight. It's like, okay, Mitchell, we know what you are. Let's get these younger guys more playing time, more experience or what. Gamble had a quiet 78-yard game, and we gave up one negative rushing yard on the ground. Didn't give up any sacks, and I think our game plan was to come out and air it out a little bit. Is this going to be a similar game plan? I don't know. I can see that after what we did last week. So I don't know. Yeah, we can run on them, but it's like we talked about earlier in the season. Just because we can doesn't mean we're necessarily going to. Are we going to get more of those reps for Slaughter? Are we going to let him work his stuff out? Are we going to let him try dumb shit, have success with it this week, try it again next week, and get penalized or throw an interception for it? I don't know. But that's more fun to me, and I like fun, so I'm rooting for that game.
Okay. Works for me.
So, no fan questions this week. Before we get out of here, Rob, you got anything else tonight?
No, I'm all good.
All right. So with that, go Tigers, beat the Cadets.
Go Tigers.